Thank you so much, Judge McDade, for joining us this evening on the call. My name is Pam Fort from Speak Up and Vote, and this is
I'm Sherry Williams from Speak Up and Vote.
Well, it's nice to meet both of you, and thank you so much for having me.
wonderful. So let me just give you a little bit of background about us. We started, along with others in our group, we started a nonpartisan voter registration campaign. And our goal was to register as many disenfranchised folks as possible. So that's what we did. We ended up doing 23 voter registration events.
Wow.
Yes, this is our 8th Meet the Candidates forums. And then we also did a press conference with about 15 different clergy from about 7 or 8 different denominations, encouraging, we did it actually at the courthouse downtown Joliet, encouraging, their members to actually get out and vote and to vote early. And then on the weekends, we're actually, we created a Freedom Ride bus.
Oh, really?
Yes, one of the churches let us use their bus, so we've sort of taken it over for the month of October. So we have a Freedom Ride bus, and we're going around, the communities, encouraging people to get out and vote on, on Saturdays. That's what we're doing. So we are passionate about this voting season, because our goal is to get people not just to vote for the top of the ticket, but to vote all the way down, because change starts at the local level.
Yes, it does.
And at the end of the day, it's when you walk out the door, the roads that you drive on, everything that when you get in your car, you get on the highway, you think about it. All those are local decisions as far as how those things are being done. So we want to make sure that people know, I don't care if it's shoveling snow, for whatever it is, some municipality is the reason that either gets done or doesn't get done. So we wanted people to know that. So while we were out on the campaign trail, that's what we call it, as we were registering people to vote, we started talking to a lot of the constituents, and their biggest issues were, one of them was they didn't know who the people were that was running. And they may have seen the names, but they don't know the faces. And if they know the faces, they don't really connect it as far as what does it do for them personally. So that prompted us to actually start this voter registration Meet the Candidates forums. So that's what we've been doing. And we decided to sort of, reach out to some of the judges. We've reached out to all the different judges that was actually trying to, be retained. And you were one of the ones that actually accepted the invitation. So we're glad that you did exactly that. So just to let the audience know that all of them were, extended invitations, and you were the one that actually accepted. So let's get started with this. And if you can just go ahead and, state your name and just sort of tell us, your background, what brought you into, becoming a judge, in about a couple minutes here.
Okay. Well, my name is Mary McDade. I'm a judge on the Illinois Appellate Court. The Appellate Court has 5 districts. And I sit in the 3rd district, which includes 21 counties that stretch from Joliet and across I-80, pick up Rock Island. It includes Kankakee and Peoria and Macomb. So it goes from the Indiana border to the Iowa border and all the way across the stretch that I just described. So 21 counties. And we are the 2nd level of the court system in Illinois. There's a trial court level, and then the appellate court is the 1st level of review, and then the Supreme Court is the final level of review. I'm from Michigan. I grew up there. I came to Illinois in 1963, moved to Peoria in 1965, and Peoria is where I live. My family was very involved with civil rights. We were very active in marches and sit-ins and advocating for change and for statutes. And So it was kind of natural for me to become interested in the law. And I guess it was kind of a natural progression to just move into it. It did get delayed, though. I went to law school when I was 41. So I can tell you that you're never too old to follow that path or reach for the dream that you had. So I went in when I was 41, graduated when I was 44, and I practiced, like I clerked for a federal judge for 2 years, and then I practiced law for 16 years, and then I ran for this position. So I've been on the appellate court now for 20 years, and I have loved it. I've worked very hard. I've tried to do a good job. And I think maybe I'll just let you ask questions now, and then I'll be able to go where you're interested in going.
Wonderful. Sherry?
All right. Well, thank you. Well, we know that people don't really know, like we said, a lot about judges. So what types of decisions do you, I'm understanding that there's 3 types of decisions that come from the court. So what kind of decisions do you make?
Well, the cases that come to us cover the full spectrum of the law. We do criminal, we do civil cases that involve corporations and lots of money. We do civil cases that are relatively small, not small to the parties, but relatively small compared to the corporations. We do family law, so we do domestic violence cases, we do terminations of parental rights, and we're reviewing all of those. We also do administrative appeals, so we have appeals from the tax agency, we have appeals from the Pollution Control Board, from park districts. We have the full gamut of things that people go to court for.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
And we write, you said what kind, we write 3 different kinds of decisions. We can do opinions, and opinions have precedential value, which means that they can be cited by other courts when they have a decision where it's an appropriate thing for them to rely on. And then we have orders, which we do the same kind of analysis, but they're not published, so they don't have precedential value, but they are all online. So that if you're doing a case and you're looking for a specific kind of fact situation, and you find that fact situation, but it's an unpublished opinion, then you can't cite the case, but you can use the reasoning that was used in the case for the reasoning in your case. And then we do summary orders, where the law is just so clear, or the facts are just so clear, that it doesn't really require a full analysis, and those are pretty pro forma, and they have no precedential value at all.
What's your most interesting case?
They're all interesting. There are, I guess that I have a great deal of interest in criminal law and a great deal of interest in family law, because those affect liberty interests, whether or not people remain free, whether families stay together or they got separated. Those kinds of things are really important to me. And so I like those kinds of cases. There have been, cases where I have probably ridden them further than I should have, because I keep trying to push for somebody else to look at it the same way that I'm looking at it. But I need to learn when to give up.
Well, one of the things is when you think about, like trial attorneys, when you think about diversity, like I know trial attorneys, that work in the area here that I have relationships with. What do you think would be, how do you get more diversity, I guess, on the bench, even for like trial attorneys? Because that's one of the biggest things, because we just don't see enough minorities, at the appellate level.
Yes, there are a number of minority judges in Cook County because Cook County has so much diversity anyway. So there are a lot of women judges, there are a lot of African Americans and Latinos. So there's a lot of diversity in Chicago. To the best of my knowledge, I am the only Black judge in downstate Illinois. And I think that people are hesitant to run. I was hesitant to run. As I said, it's 21 counties, and that's a pretty daunting prospect for campaigning, just the physical act of going around and campaigning. And if you're nervous about how people respond to you, it's pretty daunting also to be going to a lot of communities that you've never been to, people that don't know you, you don't know them, you have no idea what their attitudes are like. So you're pretty much leading with your chin when you're running. And so you have to kind of take your courage in hand and be willing to take a few hits in order to get out there and do it. It's easier to develop diversity within the trial courts because there are 2 levels of trial court judges, and it's possible to start off as an associate judge where you're actually appointed by the circuit judges, so you can get your feet wet, you can get experience, you can get known without having to go through the process of campaigning. And also the circuits are much smaller, so sometimes you'd only be campaigning in 1 county, sometimes it would be 4 or 5, but it's a much less frightening prospect than running for the appellate court. And of course, the Supreme Court, the judges run from the districts, from the appellate court districts. So there's a Supreme Court judge, Judge Kilbride, who belongs to the 3rd district. There are a couple of judges for the 1st district, which is Chicago, Cook County. And then there's the 2nd district, which is Lake and DuPage and I forget, sorry. And then the 4th district and the 5th district is down at the bottom of the state.
Gotcha. Sherry?
Well, with this being a judge, and how do you campaign? Because you're basically not supposed to really be partisan. However, you'll still kind of have to be if you're going to be running.
It's 2 different processes, actually. The first time that you run, it's a regular kind of campaign. You run from a party, you have opponents, and it's just like a regular election. Then after you're elected the first time, you run for retention, and you're not running against anyone. You're basically asking for 60% of the people who cast a ballot in your race to say yes, that you should stay on the bench. It's when you're running for retention, unless there's a specific campaign against you, you really don't do very much. If people are interested in hearing you, you can go to meetings, but it's not the kind of grueling campaign that it was the first time.
Yeah, 21 counties. That would be grueling.
Yes.
If there's any more grueling than what we did with the voter registration, I'm out. I'm out, I'm out, I'm out.
No,
So, wow.
what you did was time consuming and really necessary.
Yes, we wouldn't trade it for anything, but it's a lot. It's not anything I would be willing to do every few months. That's just a lot. That's a
Yeah.
Now the what I wanted to ask was, and I know you have nothing to do with that, but what's your opinion just on, the Supreme Court judge, nomination?
I haven't watched very much of it, so I haven't seen a lot of her answers to questions. I catch little snippets of it on the news. And I've not had the opportunity to read any of her opinions. I understand that she's extremely intelligent. I would expect that of a Supreme Court nominee. So I have no way of predicting what kind of a Supreme Court justice she would be. I know that sometimes there are surprises. I remember my mom and dad being horrified when Earl Warren was nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court. And much to this dismay of President Eisenhower, he turned out to be incredibly progressive. So there's no guarantee. I think the thing that strikes me the most about what's going on with this Supreme Court nomination is the extent to which it shows politicism. And the way that our government was set up, the Supreme Court is supposed to be a neutral arbiter. It's not supposed to be for one party or the other. It's not supposed to be driven by politics. It's supposed to be looking at the law and making rational, neutral decisions. And the spectacle that we're watching in the last several years with all of the Supreme Court nominations just serves to emphasize the extent to which it has become politicized. And I think that that's very unfortunate.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, just, why should the constituents, retain, allow you to retain your seat?
Because I'm good.
Hey!
All right, I like that.
All right, that's a very blunt question, a blunt response. Very good. But
No,
just give us just some background, just why.
I believe in the rule of law to begin with. I believe that everybody deserves their day in court and that every case should be decided on its specific facts. I don't believe that we should make judgments about how a case should come out depending on the race of the person who's involved, depending on the background of that person, whether or not they're a member of a particular organization. I think that we look at the facts of the case and we consider those facts in the light of what the pertinent law is, and we make a decision for that person. And we don't make a decision based on some other case that we've decided before. It's got to be that person's case. And then because we're the appellate court and we convey our decisions by written orders and opinions, I believe that it's really important to write decisions in such a way that people know why they won and why they lost. And that has components of logic and rationale, but it also requires us to speak in plain language and not indulge ourselves in a lot of legalese that may mean something to us and doesn't mean anything to the parties in the case. I believe that I bring a depth of experience, a kind of experience that no other judge on my court has, because no other judge on my court has ever been Black, has ever dealt with the kinds of things that I have dealt with in the ways that I have dealt with them. And I don't believe that my personal experiences should drive my decisions, but I do believe that they inform how I see things and how I hear things, and that when I share that with the other judges, I'm giving them something that they have not personally experienced. And by the same token, they're doing the same thing for me because their life experiences have been different than mine. And I believe that by having that diversity on the court, we are expanding our perspective and making it far more likely that we're going to reach correct decisions and fair decisions. So I think that the person that I am is another reason why I should be retained. I think I also have a kind of personality where I tend to get along very well with people even when I disagree with them. So I think that we have a very collegial court, and I think that I'm part of why we have that collegiality, and I think that it also informs how our decisions get made and how fair and how in accord with the law they are.
Wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. Share that you have.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time
Definitely.
to come here and be with us.
Well, thank you so
Absolutely.
much for having me. I've enjoyed talking with you.
Yes,
And we've
as
enjoyed
have
it too.
we, as have we. So
And I'm
enjoy.
very, very admiring of all the efforts that you're making in terms of the voter registration and the voter turnout. It's just critically important, and I appreciate all that effort.
Well, thank
Well,
you.
thank you so very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you on the other side.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Have a good
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.